Okay, so ergonomically you can use either your left or right foot, whatever's most comfortable. Set it under your knee so your leg is at a 90-degree angle. You might need to raise your chair about an inch or two because it is about 2 inches thick. You're going to rest your heel on that white button while you're tapping the numbers. And then you've got your numbers across the center, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if you hold them down for over a second, 1 becomes a 5, 2 becomes a 6, 3 becomes a 7, and 4 becomes an 8. And the audio feedback's nice for that also because you'll hear the numbers be repeated back to you. Then you have the joystick at the top, and that runs your mouse cursor, and it's got an adjustable speed. You can just rest the ball of your foot and lean left, right, up, down to move the mouse cursor around. So you can open your x-rays, run your control camera, check your schedule. Don't feel like you have to have a big enough foot to reach that mouse while your heel is on the white button. Your foot's not meant to be that big. The white button is the fulcrum for the numbers, and then you have to lift your foot up to run the mouse cursor. Now let's get to your software. Okay, with Eaglesoft, there's a few different ways you can do it. You can either open up a clear period chart or open up a previous period chart. I recommend parking the mouse cursor on the bleeding, and that way when you rock back, you'll have bleeding. You've got your numbers across the center, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you hold them down longer, 1 becomes 5, 2 becomes 6, 3 becomes 7, and 4 becomes 8. And then if you rock back on your heel because your mouse is on the bleeding, it's going to mark your bleeding for you. But you will notice with Eaglesoft that it puts the bleeding in before the number. So what I recommend is probing a couple teeth and then entering them in. So like probe, 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 tap, tap, tap. And that way it gives you enough time, if you probe a couple teeth, to look and see if there's bleeding or not. And that way you can just, as you're tapping the numbers in, just heel click the bleeding before the number. It's kind of a little habit to get into. Now if you do have that number over 8, hopefully not a lot, but if you do, that's where you would take your joystick at the toe and mouse over to the 9 and then rock back on your heel, and that'll put the 9 in. So whatever you're pointed on, that heel is going to click it in. So if you have a double digit, you'd mouse to the 10, heel click. And then if you're doing an actual 10, you would mouse to the 0. If you're doing an 11, you can just rock back on your 10 and then tap your 1 on your dental rat. And then you'll see that it'll give you an underlined 1. That's how they do the double digits. If you do make a mistake and you want to go back, you've got the mouse cursor. You take it to that back button and rock back on your heel, and then you can re-tap the numbers you wanted it to be. And it's nice when you can hear the numbers out loud, so definitely go load the audio feedback so you hear the numbers out loud. Otherwise, I recommend leaving the mouse cursor on the bleeding so it doesn't mess up your chart. If for some reason the mouse is on the chart, it will click off of the chart. For a really quick recession pass, after it's already gone through the pockets and bleeding, it'll start you out at the beginning again. Your mouse was on bleeding, so you'll just mouse straight to GM, heel click, and then you'll mouse straight over. You can either do the 0 or tap a 1, whichever you want, to get on the direct facial, to get your blue dot on the direct facial. And then I lock it there. So that blue dot's there. So it's a straight shot from bleeding over to GM, over to lock, and then I mouse straight over to forward. And the straight shots are really actually pretty easy to hit with your mouse. And then when you heel click that forward button, it'll jump along until you've got a spot of recession, and then you would just tap your number of recession in. So it's a really quick recession pass. If you do have mesial or distal clefting, you don't have to lock it on there. You could leave it on the 0 and go through, or mouse to the spot that you want to mark it, or these numbers also move that blue dot to different positions. I just think the fastest one is leaving it on bleeding, locking it on the direct facial. But the big thing is don't leave your mouse parked on the screen. It will mess up your path. And don't use that edit previous because it won't save it correctly. If you want to edit another perio chart that you've already done, you can go to File, then Preferences, then there's this Perio tab, and there's this Use Previous Perio Data when starting a new exam, and it will always bring forward your last perio chart you did on a patient. So if you've got a really healthy patient that's all 323, 212, 212s, but you want to do a new perio chart and not have to re-enter all of the same numbers in, this is really handy. So the numbers will already be populated in there from last times, and you're still probing and checking everything. You just don't have to manually re-enter the numbers if you don't want to. And that makes it really fast with the dental rat. So then you'll just leave it on the forward button, heel click until you see a change, and then tap your change. And I usually tap all 3 numbers. And then when you save, you're going to save it all as today's date, which makes it really nice and really fast. Now when you get to the last tooth of the arch, you do have to re-put in whatever those 3 numbers were for it to follow whatever path you follow. So it will follow the path you follow, but when you're doing forward, it's just going straight across until you hit that last tooth, and then you just have to tap those last 3 numbers in. Then it'll follow your path around. Some people get good enough they can take their mouse to those little spots and then just heel click and make their change that way too. But those are pretty small spots to hit. But one thing we did add with Eaglesoft is our right click. So you can also mark a tooth missing, pull up an image of a tooth, or look at the history of a tooth. And the right click is under the number 4. If you hold the 4 down for 3 seconds, you'll get that little menu up that pops up the image. And so if you're probing along, you can mark it missing. Sometimes I tend to just do 111, and then I know later to take that out with my hand mouse by right clicking and taking it out. But you can mouse to the spot, right click, and take it out also. So whichever way you want to do it, that way too. Don't try to do too much at once. I recommend the first few patients just put the numbers in. Next ones add the bleeding, so you're just doing the pockets and bleeding. Don't overwhelm yourself, although it is very simple and you'll get really fast. Don't make it too confusing. What's really nice about it is you can do a lot of other things with it too. Once you get used to that mouse cursor, you can mouse down, you can open up your x-rays, run your intraoral camera, check your schedule, whatever else you have on your computer without having to touch your hand mouse. The patients think it's magic when you can hear the numbers out loud. All of a sudden the computer's telling them they have perio, not you, and they just think it's so high tech and so magic. So load up the audio feedback. We have a really quick little video to show how to do that. And that way you hear the numbers as you tap them. And also we have a setup video, and we have a little video to show how to change the speed of your mouse. But have fun with it. It's really fun, and you'll get really fast at it. Let us know if you have any questions at all.